Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So we're going to be talking about the 2004 movie, The Phantom of the Opera. So this one I have a weird relationship with where, okay, when I was 5, so I was in kindergarten, I had a babysitter who used to always pick me up from school, and then we'd go and we'd pick up this other kid, and then we'd go to her house and hang out for a while. And we were like that for like, I think, a year or two. And she always played the soundtrack to this movie for me. Though she did make sure to tell me, and I'm glad she did, of like, hey, make sure to watch this when you're like 13 because it's a PG-13 movie. It took me a bit longer than that to watch it. But it was interesting because like, if you consider musicals in terms, or like I'm considering it in this example of like not things like the first one I've seen on like screen or as a movie, but like the first musical I've ever listened to, technically it's this one then, that I have like childhood nostalgia for, even though like I don't remember it super, like I didn't understand like the topics or anything, which was probably for the best because it's like a pretty gothic and dark musical. So it was interesting when I was older and I finally watched the movie, and it was weird for me where, you know, I hadn't seen it before, I didn't know what the plot was, but I was already just familiar with all the songs and everything, because, you know, I had heard them when I was so young, so that's pretty neat. And that was really the only version of the musical I'd ever like listened to or anything, because I did end up finding on Spotify like the original cast recording and stuff from like the 80s and listening to that. And I tried to watch footage of that too at one point where someone recorded a performance, but you know, it's the 80s, so it's like the quality of potato where you can't see anything, but you could hear stuff, you could sort of make things out a little bit, which is a bummer. Actually after this I found an Internet Archive, I think, the like filmed recording of like the 25th anniversary, and I've heard the actors for that are ones that people really like for The Phantom and Christine, so I'm hyped for that. So I thought before I watch that or listen to any more music from this musical, because I've been doing that a bit today, I wanted to talk about the movie, and this is one kind of like kind of like Rocky Horror that I watch every year, but this one I think I've seen a less amount, no, probably the same amount of times, maybe even more, actually. Yeah, because I have 2 copies of this DVD. One of them is like the 2-disc special edition, which sounds cool, except the freaking DVD doesn't work, so then I had to buy a second version of it. I think I found it in like a DVD bargain bin or whatever, and I was so excited because I'm like, yeah, I get to watch Phantom of the Opera. Anyway, I'm glad I own it. It's one of those musicals I watch every year for Halloween because it's, you know, it's very gothic and spooky and stuff, because it's this love triangle between this singer, her childhood friend, and the creepy stalker that's also her music teacher, which I also find kind of interesting because, you know, the Phantom of the Opera is like originally a book. I still haven't read it. I don't know if I will. And then this movie is based on the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, and that's kind of the format of the story I'm interested in. But then there's like this other musical made by other people where the Phantom's a lot nicer, and I watched I'll be talking about this movie in a bit, I promise all this is relevant. I watched a movie of that version where Charles Dance was the Phantom, and that is like a completely different format. You feel like so much more sympathy for the Phantom as a kid. Like they portray him as a lot more sympathetic and a lot more sassy for some reason. That version's also fun. But anyway, I brought that one up because in that movie, you actually see the Phantom giving Christine like music lessons and stuff, and I just find it interesting with the Andrew Lloyd Weber musical and also like the movie, you never actually see scenes of like Christine learning anything. Like, she already sounds amazing, of course. They constantly mention about like the Phantom of the Opera being her tutor and her taking lessons for years or whatever. You never actually see any of that. But I guess, there's more like action and such in this. There's also some other things I find interesting. Like, this movie had like the opening is actually completely different, and you see it as like these flash forwards throughout the whole movie. They're like black and white. I can't even call them flashbacks because I think they take place in like 1917 and the movie is like 18 something, or like the present of the movie, and it's kind of confusing at first, but it's good. It's like if you've seen the movie, like who the characters are, because it's like older versions of the characters, which I'm still a little confused because it's like Raoul, who's the guy that Christine ends up getting with. He's like an old man, and he ends up buying the Phantom's little like monkey music box thing that he ends up finally getting to Christine, or what's left of her anyway, at the end of the movie, which is also a weird ending too, because it reveals her grave. Not that she died immediately after the story. I think she lives till she's like 60 or something, which was probably old for back then. It's such a weird thing though, because I don't remember that in like the musical on stage. From what little I'd gotten to see, there isn't like a graveyard. I mean, there's a graveyard scene, but like not like Christine's grave or anything. Or in other versions, it's just this one movie where it's like, oh yeah, she dies, but it's like way in the future or something, or she's already dead and like everyone else outlives her. I think it's kind of a weird thing to have. Like, plot-wise, I get it's sort of important because then it reveals that the Phantom is also still around, that he didn't get, like, caught by the mob or anything. So that's at least plot significant, but other than that, I'm like, why? Like, it's cool. It's cool to have this, like, black and white, like, flash forward to see. You kind of get spoiled on, like, who lives and who dies. That is a little confusing because Madame Giry is also there. I don't know if it would specifically be her. I was thinking about that. I'm like, how the hell did she live that long if she's supposed to be like the same age as the Phantom? And I'm wondering now, is it actually just I'm assuming Giry's her last name, so I'm assuming it's actually just Meg in that case, like Meg as an old woman who I thought would be more of an important character. I kind of forgot about it until I was watching this movie again, because in the sequel musical that they didn't make a movie of or anything, the one that everyone pretends doesn't exist, so I haven't watched it yet, Meg is definitely a more relevant character from what I know about the plot, but in this, I feel it gives the vibe of like she's almost supposed to be, I don't know, because I'm assuming that's her in like the flash forwards and stuff, because there's no way her mother was already like an olderish woman and stuff throughout like the present day plot. There's no way it's her if Raoul's like already an old man or whatever, so I'm assuming it's Meg, because she also tries to bid on the music box as well, and doesn't get to. And then you see Meg like a little bit throughout the movie. Like, she starts off just kind of in the role of Christine's friend, but then she's also trying to investigate things, but like not as much as Raoul. And then she's the one at the end that ends up like kind of leading the mob and finding the Phantom's mask, and that's about it. So I don't really get like the point of her character. Like, her mother's way more of a like a plot relevant character. I don't know. But anyway, these flash forwards are sort of interesting, I guess. It's kind of cool that like I said, they start in black and white, and one of my favorite parts of this movie is when, because it's a flash forward, the building's burned down, it's like covered in spider webs and stuff, and then when the music box is revealed and all that, and they talk about the chandelier, it's actually like a whole animation of like the chandelier being on the floor and then going back up to the ceiling, and as it's going back up to the ceiling, the movie like slowly switches into color and everything lights up and it's all like clean again, and the cobwebs and stuff are literally like magically blown away as the organs for the Phantom of the Opera theme play. It's just so freaking cool. honestly. Like it's not like something that, you know, they could do in like the musical on the stage or whatever, because going from like black and white to color. So that's one of the things with the movie I like. Like I feel like musically, the musical, from what I've heard and stuff, is better, and I'll be definitely talking about throughout this. But with the movie, part of the reason I have a soft spot for it, besides like little additions like that you would only be able to do in a movie, I feel like this is one of those musical movies, kind of like when I watched Mamma Mia, because I have grown up with the Mamma Mia movie. My mom and I have watched it like a bajillion times since I was like 8. Where the setting is just as much of a character as anything else. Like with Mamma Mia, it takes place in Greece. Like they filmed it in Greece. You're just there. It's like trying to get you to go on a vacation to Greece, basically. And it was weird. I saw clips of like the musical, and of course they can't be in Greece because they're on a stage. But I'm like, where are all the buildings with the blue roofs and shit? And that's how I feel with this musical, where they're in a freaking opera house, and it's so cool. Where even if like whatever's going in the plot, I'll be like looking around in the background at all these like statues. There's like a billion candles everywhere. It's so fucking cool. Honestly, just the whole opera house, and you get to see different rooms of it. There's like a main room where they have like the masquerade scene, and then the room with like the stage and everything with the audience there. That's the one where like the chandelier falls, and just it's so cool. I feel so conflicted with this movie, and I'll get back to my notes, where it's like the location, amazing, the setting is beautiful, the costumes are fantastic. There's a couple of them I'm going to talk about in my notes, but mostly Christine's are some of my favorites. Like the costumes are really cool. I've never read the book or anything, so I don't know like what specifically the characters are supposed to look like. I've heard the Phantom's supposed to definitely look kind of worse in terms of like his deformities and such, but I don't know like canonically if we're going off the book like what they're completely supposed to look like, so I can't say they're accurate or whatever. But I do like the actors they have here for them. Like acting wise, I feel like they all do a good job and stuff. Like Gerard Butler as the Phantom, I think acting wise and stuff does a good job. My problem with him is his singing ability. Everyone else I'm fine with. But I think this is honestly my favorite version of Christine so far that I've seen. Like I haven't really seen different versions of musical stuff, so I can't say, but like I guess my only experience is like this movie and the original cast recording. I do like the Christine here better. I still can't believe she's like the actress, I think her name's like Emmy Rossum or something, is like 17 or 18 when making this, which is crazy. She sounds wonderful. She gets so many like cool outfits with this, and then Patrick Wilson as Raoul also is pretty good. I've never really seen him in a lot of stuff. I just mostly remember him from this movie, and there was a Barbra Streisand album where she did like duets with people, and he was one of the people she did duets with, and that was pretty cool. Like I've seen Gerard Butler in other things. Like he does a good job, especially like the emotion of the character. And there is like some songs I do think he did, like a couple I think he actually does pretty well with that I like. It's just weird because it's unlike every time, or no, I guess ever since I watched or I listened to the like original cast recordings, like not just being used to what I was used to with this movie and stuff, it's like weird watching it or listening to it, I guess, because like I was used to this version of the Phantom and how he sounded and everything. So then listening to the recording, I was just like, why are some of the words not different, but like, you know, things will be sung differently or whatever. So it was like weird for me, but it was also like really, really good. Like, why am I forgetting names right now? Yeah, Michael Crawford, I think, yeah, he's the Phantom, which I still can't believe that, by the way, because I knew him for the musical Hello, Dolly, where he plays like a very silly character, which I technically also know that musical from childhood because there's bits of it in the movie WALL-E. Like literally one of his songs is in the opening of WALL-E, and I have that like scene memorized forever. But I'm used to him for musicals like that, or like Barnum is another one I really like, which is weird because those are like two where he has an American accent for some reason. But then hearing him as the Phantom, it's like, whoa, it's a difference for sure. Anyway, so it's weird for me coming back every time I watch this movie again. I'm like, yeah, Gerard Butler doesn't sing very good. Like everything else with him with this character, I'm like fine with and stuff. No, I mean it's not the fault of like him. It's for this next thing I'm gonna say, it's like what he looks like under the mask just bothers me. He's like the Phantom is, you know, supposed to be like very grotesque and the way he's described, and you can even kind of almost be spoiled by it of like what he looks like. There's part towards the beginning where he removes like this piece of cloth over a mirror and you actually see like his full face for like a second, and I paused there and I looked at it even though I already knew what it looks like. It looks like a bad sunburn. Like what is he complaining about? Especially because in this one they have this whole flashback they show you of like him as a child in like a circus thing or something. Like he was abused that much and everything about his face, but like it doesn't look that bad in this version. They also made him blonde for some reason, which I thought was interesting. I don't know. I think it was a blonde. Like originally when I watched it, I thought it was like more whitish blonde, and I thought like, oh, he's old, but it's like blonde. I mean, he is definitely older than Christine, or I think so. Anyway, I kind of have to assume so, only because I mean, she mentions about as a child hearing this like voice teaching her to sing or whatever. So he's been like, you know, grooming her this whole time. It's kind of weird. I don't like it because they have like so much romantic, even though he doesn't end up being the romance option at the end, they have like a lot of romantic tension together. So knowing that, plus the his flashback story where Madame Giry, like Meg's mom, rescues him as a child and like takes him to the opera house to like live in the basement forever or whatever, and she, you know, already has a daughter that's the same age as Christine, and her and the Phantom were both kids at the same time, so like dude's old enough to be her dad, so it makes it kind of weird where like, I mean, I don't know how much older like Gerard Butler is than the actress playing Christine. I'm assuming quite a bit, you know, because I mentioned she's, I think, like pretty young in this, but it makes it weird where like remembering that of like he's older, like character wise there's like definitely a bit of an age gap, so it makes it like icky, but then there's so much like sexual tension and stuff, and that doesn't specifically go for the movie, that goes for like any version of this, but I was just thinking about it more because they include like the circus backstory here, where it feels icky, but then there's the sexual tension, you get kind of into it because you're like, I don't know, getting into the movie or whatever, at least I was, so just it's weird. Like sometimes I forget about that when I watch and I'm like, man, she should have ended up with him or whatever, and then I'm like, wait, no. Okay, I'm finally gonna get back to my notes, but yeah, that scene where it goes from black and white to color with the chandelier and everything is peak, honestly. There's also a line when Raoul, when he's like an old man and stuff, he buys the music box and he asks it, will you play when the rest of us are dead? And I kept thinking about that. I actually wrote that line in my notes because I thought it sounded kind of haunting. So there's like a theme, you know, of like death and everything throughout this movie, of like Christine mourning her father and the Phantom being treated as like an angel or, you know, like a ghost, and he has all this imagery of stuff of like skulls and everything, which I noticed like way more in this one. Like he has a seal, like a wax seal he uses that is literally just like a skull. It even kind of looks three-dimensional. I thought that looked cool as hell. I want to get something like that because I write letters to people. But I noticed this time around that the sword he uses to fight Raoul later in the movie, there's like a shot where you see a close-up of it where it's on the ground and there's like a skull on it, and just all the skull imagery, or like his mask during the masquerade scene and stuff. And I just kind of was noticing more stuff like that. I feel like every time I watch this, I notice like more details, so it kind of makes it fun, even though I've seen the movie before, to like, you know, I watch it every year. But yeah, there's so many cool locations in this musical. I'm kind of going back to my notes here of like the opera house. You get to see the roof of it during one of the songs, and it's like there's a lot of snow outside. So the roof is cool. It has these like huge ass like horse statues. For some reason, it kind of reminds me actually of there's a boss fight in Luigi's Mansion where you fight like an army of boos in the first Luigi's Mansion on the roof of the mansion. It kind of gives the same vibes as that, actually. And then there's this graveyard that Christine goes to towards like the endish of the movie, and that location's really cool. I think mostly because it's also covered in snow, it's like cloudy, so it just comes off as more haunting and mysterious rather than like depressing to me for being a graveyard. But it's like, it's a cool location. The costumes are also really cool. I'll be mentioning them throughout this. Like one of the first costumes we see, there's a character named Carlotta who's kind of treated just like as a joke character and stuff. I'll talk about her in a second. There's like different musicals, different operas they put on throughout the movie, because it's, you know, an opera house. And the first one they do, like when you meet all the characters, is the musical Hannibal, and she's like their lead character or whatever, where she wears this like huge crown. It actually looks really cool. Like, of course, because it's like a fancy opera house, the characters have all these extravagant costumes, even Christine. But I feel like Carlotta is being like this like rich bitch prima donna diva or whatever, just have more like flair to them. And sometimes I think that's cool, and sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's too much shiny shit in your dress, dude, chill. I think my opinion on her as a character has changed. Like, she's not super important. She like sort of is, because the more she keeps getting attention, the more the Phantom keeps punishing the opera house and stuff. And she does end up getting, or not, I don't think she gets her own song, but she gets songs like sung about her throughout at some points in the movie, which is interesting. I used to find her really annoying when the first like couple times I watched this movie, where I'm like, oh, I want to like skip through her or whatever. But now I just find her hilarious. I think that's probably supposed to be the point. She just has like a lot of funny lines and stuff, and she's so ridiculous in being like so full of herself and everything, of this like prima donna opera character and stuff, that it just comes off as so goofy. It's like her and her little dog and whatever, and I like the way she like pronounces things sometimes. And she isn't really like that bad of a singer. Like in the context of the story, she's supposed to be awful to the point where like the staff that works at the opera house like plug their ears every time she gets onto a stage. But she doesn't sound actually like that awful. I mean, of course I think like Christine sounds better, and that's like supposed to be the point. Carlotta's vocals are definitely more harsh. But the thing is, or at least for like this version with like the movie and everything, you know, it's an opera house. Christine's voice doesn't really, like, it's beautiful, but it doesn't really sound that like operatic to me. I don't really know how else to explain it, but Carlotta's definitely does, so I can understand why she like in universe is getting all of these roles of being like their lead singer or whatever. And I only was kind of really thought about that with this viewing, but yeah, I find her kind of funny now, and she isn't really like in that many scenes anyway. It's mostly like sort of the beginning, and then she kind of drops down a bit once Christine kind of starts getting the spotlight, and then like a bit towards the end where she gets one of the lead roles again, and she has this funny part where the Phantom messes with this perfume thing she uses for her mouth, and where it's supposed to like quote unquote make her sound like a toad, but she just keeps making these really weird ass noises, and it's kind of funny. Well, I kind of feel bad for her. You know, like, she doesn't really know about any of the stuff going on with the Phantom or whatever. I mean, of course she doesn't like Christine because she wants to be in, like, the spotlight or whatever. But, you know, the Phantom's, like, actively against Carlotta. What else? I find the opera owners, I kind of have a similar opinion of them, where I also hated them, but now I'm just, like... I think I actually do like Carlotta a bit more than them, I think, because they have less, like, plot relevant. No, they have more plot relevance. Because basically the whole reason the plot kind of seems to start is, like, the previous owner of the opera house, leaves, and he seems so excited to leave too. He's just like, bye, have fun with the mess in here. Where he tells the new owners of, like, yeah, you're gonna have to just deal with Carlotta and the stuff with the Phantom Ghost. He doesn't really tell them about the ghost or anything. He leaves while he still can, you know? And then the owners don't take the stuff about the place being haunted seriously, or that the Phantom... Oh yeah, I love that the Phantom gets paid for doing nothing, basically. Like, he gets supposedly paid, like, I don't know the equivalent in, like, dollars or whatever, because the movie takes place in, like, 1800s France, but, I'm assuming he gets paid a lot. I mean, he does do things. He, like, in his cave basement thing, like, he does all this art stuff. He makes these little models. He made Christine a freaking wedding dress, I'm assuming. So he's using the money for art supplies and for other things. And he obviously keeps an eye on, like, the theater, and he gives Christine lessons. Not that anyone really knows about that. So he isn't just twiddling his thumbs down there, but, like, he's not really doing anything, like, for the opera house or whatever as a opera house. He just gets paid, you know, to not do bad things to them or whatever. But I just find that really funny. But yeah, the owners, they don't want to pay the Phantom. They don't care about, like, his threats of, like, you better put Christine in lead roles, and that's kind of the reason the violence happens. I mean, I think the Phantom would murder people regardless anyway. But, you know, the idiot owners are kind of like that. Kind of help with that a bit. But I find them, like, a little more funnier now. I can tolerate them a bit more, but they're not, like, as funny as Carlotta, where I'm like, okay, you're kind of a fun character. I'm just like, all right, you're here. They do have, like, one song, though, and it's kind of a fun song. I think it's called Letters, if I remember right, where it's them and, like, a couple of other characters of, like, the side characters and stuff getting these letters of, like, threats from the Phantom or whatever. I don't really feel like the people they had for that role of, like, the two owners, like, could really sing well, but it is kind of a fun song anyway. It's kind of one of those, like, kind of fast-paced ones and such. They were able to handle it, I guess. What else? Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be talking about the songs as well. I forgot about that. One of the first ones is Think of Me. I like the transitions they have for it, you know, with it being a movie and stuff, where it starts off where, like, Carlotta's singing it and doesn't sound too great, and then Christine sings it, and then as she's singing it, it goes from, like, her, where the characters currently are at, where she's, like, backstage somewhere, and then it's her on the stage at, like, the opening night, and that was a pretty cool transition. I love her outfit with that. Christine gets a lot of, like, very poofy dresses and things that I think are really fun. But I like the one for this song where it's, like, this big white dress. Almost reminds me of, like, a wedding dress or something. And she has these, like, flowers in her hair. I kind of noticed she always seems to have, like, things in her hair. Like, in this scene, it's, like, these little white flowers. There's another one where it was, like, something pink. I don't really remember. There's a lot of, like, floral imagery. There's, like, floral imagery in general. Like, there's a rose in this cover of the movie because the Phantom's associated with, like, roses and stuff. But yeah, I love her outfits, especially that one. And there's this part she does at the end of that song where she kind of holds different notes before doing this one big final note. And I don't remember that being a thing when I was listening to the soundtrack. That's a thing, like, comparing this to, like, the like, cast recordings for, like, the musical and stuff, where I haven't listened to the other ones enough to memorize, like, oh, in the movie are things sung like a little bit differently or whatever, certain notes or whatever. Just kind of things I was noticing more on this time around. Let me see, what else do I have? But yeah, she sings like an angel, and then the Phantom being a musical genius but not being the one that can't really sing compared to everyone else, I find funny and kind of sad to the point where I ended up putting on English subtitles while I was watching this movie because I like putting on subtitles, and I'm glad I did, because there's sometimes where characters will, and it's like a thing in musicals where like multiple characters are like singing at once, and when I was watching without subtitles all the other times, sometimes I didn't really quite catch all those lines, but this time I could, and that was kind of nice. But I noticed in the language section you could watch the movie in English or in French. Those were like your only two options. Low-key, I almost watched this movie in French, also because I was curious how it was going to sound, if maybe like the singing would be better or worse or whatever. But also I've been watching like French musicals lately, and then Spotify kept giving me all this French music, and then I ended up on a playlist for like the French version of the Sound of Music movie, and you know what, it actually sounded pretty good. I don't know French, by the way, I should just state that for context, but I almost watched this movie in French just because I was like, I watch this every year, I'm curious, but the only reason I didn't was because I wanted to do a review for it on this channel, and you know, I wanted to make sure I could understand everything and whatever. Maybe I'll do that next year. But anyway, the other thing I was also thinking of, like, what if I did put one of the stage recording soundtracks on, and then the English subtitles for this movie on, and like tried to sync them up as I'm watching the movie. I think that could be kind of interesting, just to see if it like changes I mean, of course the lip singing would be wrong because it's like people in the movie singing and then people on my phone singing or whatever, because like I've memorized where all the scenes are and stuff. I'd be able to time it pretty well. Maybe I'll do that. What else? I love, and I was like really paying attention to it. I mean, I don't think it's a thing in the musical because it's a musical, but like here, you know, it's a movie. There's sometimes like background music and stuff. Just all the little instrumental bits of songs throughout the movie, and I didn't completely quite catch it all the time. Where I mean, like I know most of the titles and stuff. Where I like point at the screen, I'm like, oh, they're playing like a little snippet of like this song, but I recognized it more where I could tell exactly what line it was, and I was almost mouthing the words, and I thought that was interesting because you hear little instrumental bits of songs like before they act the full song with the words actually pops in the movie, like the scene for it or whatever. And just what they're choosing to play, even if it's like 2 seconds of a character doing something, I just find those choices really interesting. What else? And then we get the song Angel of Music, and that's when Christine and Meg, I think that's like the only thing Meg gets to sing, and it's like a duet sort of with Christine, but it's a good song. I need to look up who plays Meg, actually. I thought she had a good voice. And I feel like her and Christine, when they're singing, they do harmonize really well, which is kind of nice. I feel like I can't say that with every character Christine interacts with, because her voice is so strong sometimes that I feel like she kind of drowns out the other, like when she sings sometimes with like Raoul or with especially with the Phantom. I think because Gerard Butler can't like kind of keep up with her a little bit. I think the one song where she does harmonize with either of them really well, though, is All I Ask of You, but that's supposed to be like softer and it's like a romantic duet. She harmonizes with Raoul really well. But I think with Meg, she kind of sounds the best like together. I wish we could have seen more of them together, because I really liked how they're introduced of like I'm assuming Meg is like Christine's best friend, but like when Christine is introduced to the owners, it's Madame Giry talking, being like, oh, this is Meg and this other lady is Christine. I'm the one who brought her here. I think of her as like my own daughter. So I'm assuming they were like, right, her and Meg were kind of like raised together, not completely, because like originally Christine is like childhood besties with Raoul, and then her dad dies, and then she gets taken to the opera house, and then she ends up with like Madame Giry and Meg. But I kind of wish Meg had more of a role here as like Christine's friend and stuff, and kind of because she seems obviously curious about what's going on with the opera house, but like her mom, you see several scenes, is like trying to, you know, not get her involved, which is really smart. The Phantom's like not really like a friendly option, you know. I feel weird saying this though, knowing that the plot of the sequel literally turns Meg into the villain, where she, I think, ends up being jealous of Christine or something. Like I said, I don't want to watch it. I have seen like one clip of it actually for one of the songs where it's like a romantic duet between like Christine and the sequel's like weird, where it's like, it almost feels, it's written by Andrew Lloyd Webber as well, but it feels like fan fiction, where it turns out like Christine and the Phantom had like a child together. It sounds like completely ridiculous, and I'm just so used to the way the story is here for the original that I'm like, I don't want to give it a shot. But at the same time, I've heard some of the songs are good, and there was like a really pretty one I'd listened to where it was like a duet between, it's weird, between like the Phantom and Christine, but it was about them having a one night stand, but it was like a really pretty song. Anyway, yeah, I feel weird here. It feels like a monkey's paw moment almost, of like saying like, I wish Meg had more of a role, and knowing that the sequel exists, and I'm like, wait, no, not like that. But yeah, I like them singing together with the Angel of Music song. I do feel like it kind of drags out a little bit. I like that that's technically the first time you hear the Phantom as well, and you hear this every once in a while, where Christine will think he's nearby and she's talking to someone or like singing with someone, and then you hear the Phantom and he sounds kind of like ghostly or whatever, where, I mean, it doesn't happen where he's literally like in his cave, because there's no way his voice would travel that far, but it kind of shows like he's in the area. He really, like, he is a human person and stuff, but he really does come off as like a ghostly figure with moments like that, and he'll sound kind of ghostly and mysterious too, or just all his silly little tricks and things, you know, because he's lived in this opera house his entire life, and whatever he knows like the back of his hand, which I think that's really cool. And then the song, or I guess it's a continuation of Angel of Music. I know the scene itself is referred to as like the mirror or whatever, where you finally get to see the Phantom. I think that scene's cool too. I like with the movie, the lights in Christine's room all like blow out and stuff because it's candled. They don't have electricity yet. And then you see in different parts of the building, all the lights are going out and stuff, but there's not really anyone around anyway. So I love that. It really kind of gives the vibe of like, you know, like there's a ghost there or whatever. And then you hear the Phantom and he makes fun of Raoul. Oh yeah, there's a part where Christine's with Raoul and they like reunite for the first time in years. That was kind of nice. I like that he calls her Little Lottie. I thought that was kind of cute, and they talk a little bit, they reminisce about like when they were together as kids and stuff. And I think it's cute that they both of them, before they actually get to reunite, think like the other person, there's no way they remember me or whatever, but they recognize each other immediately. And then Christine gets locked in her room. I was confused by that at first, but I think it's by the Phantom and Madame Giry. It's like the first time you see her where she just witnesses the Phantom causing trouble. She's like interesting as a character. I want to talk about that a little bit before I continue, where throughout the movie she witnesses all of these like mischievous things the Phantom is doing, and she doesn't try to intervene or anything. And like even when people are dying and everything, she kind of just refuses to do anything, where I'm assuming a first time viewer would think like before she tells her and the Phantom's backstory and stuff of like, oh, is she in like cahoots with him or whatever. I thought that originally. I don't know if you're like supposed to think that or whatever. But then you see how like she's the one. I feel like it's maybe like guilt and also respect, if I had to think, but also like keeping herself and Meg safe or whatever. Of like she knows how dangerous the Phantom is, so she doesn't want to like get involved with all that or like potentially piss him off. Because I'm assuming they don't ever really interact anymore. But she's the one that hid him in the house to like it's kind of her fault that all of this is sort of happening. But she's like aware that he's been teaching Christine and such, and like the things that have been going on, but she doesn't do anything about like witnessing him do all this like shady shit. But she also mentions at one point to Roll of like, he's an artist, he's a designer, he's a genius or whatever. Like she seems like she really respects him and everything as like an artist, and so even though he's like going around killing people or whatever, but I find that interesting with like, she's, you know, like I said, more plot important than Meg, where she keeps like popping up, and she does end up helping at the end of like telling Will like how to get to the Phantom's lair and stuff, and like making sure that Meg doesn't wander down there and such. But yeah, she's like interesting as a character. But anyway, yeah, the mirror thing happens, Christine gets locked in, and then I think the Phantom appearing in the mirror, it's so cool. Like it's one of his little tricks or whatever, like behind it's like a sliding glass door type of mirror. I don't know how he makes it so that it's like you can see it from both ways, where instead of Christine's reflection, it's him. Actually, I think it might not even be the mirror at that point. It might just be open, because I don't think she knows there's a secret passageway in there, which is like a little bit creepy, if I'm honest, because that means he could like spy in there at her at any time or whatever. But it's still like a cool reveal of like he's there and stuff. And I think it's supposed to be like the first time they're like meeting face to face. I'm not sure, because she knows about him and she's been tutored by him for years, but I think it's like he finally reveals himself to her. And then we get the titular like Phantom of the Opera song. I think any version of that song is honestly just so fucking cool. And especially the way it is with the movie, where it's actually like a whole ass scene to get to the lair. I mean, I think usually with the musical, from like pictures I've seen, like you always, like if you look at the musical, I think most of the pictures that pop up are like Christine and Phantom on the boat is like the iconic thing with all the fog around them, and it's very cool. But then, and in this movie they do have that where they're actually on water. It's like a little gondola thing or whatever, where he's actually like pushing her through the water. So that's cool to have the location of like, you know, they're going through all these steps, and this is that's the one thing with the movie, is like you don't have to picture like, okay, they're in this location, like they're doing this shit, this is real. There's also just a fucking horse. You have weird stuff like that, which is the horse I find funny. Okay, like her journey takes place for the entire song, which is cool, and it is a long song where it's like the Phantom takes her by the hand, they go through the mirror, they're in this little teeny hallway, which is cool because they have these candles on the wall, but the candles are being held by hands, and the hands are attached to the wall. Thankfully they're not like real hands or whatever, but that's cool candle design, honestly. So they have to go through this really thin wall, and then at the bottom, like they go through some steps, and at the bottom there's a horse. I don't know how we got a horse in there, but whatever, the horse is there. Christine gets on the horse, and I'm not kidding, the horse goes like 10 steps until they're at the bottom, and the steps look fine to walk through, and then there's a boat, and then they have to get on the boat, and he paddles her all the way to his lair, because his lair is like in a sewer surrounded by water. Sorry. Yeah, I don't get what the point of the horse was, other than that it's cool. Why the hell not? Anyway, the song's cool. I'm gonna be honest. I think instrumentally the movie version of the song is better than like, I mean, with the musical, I can only compare it so far to the original cast recording. I don't know how like usually sounds and stuff. Just I was listening to that. I was listening to that song earlier, and I get it's a musical from the 80s, but it's so weird where it's like the instruments in the movie match, you know, for this song with like the rest, where there's like a lot of strings and things and whatever, and it sounds kind of spooky, and you have like the freaking organ and stuff. That's like the big thing. Like everyone knows the notes from the organ for this song. But then with the original recording, it's like a bunch of 80s music and like synths and shit, and it's like it's cool, but I'm like, that's not what I'd associate with this like 1800s French like setting and stuff. It makes it feel kind of dated, and it's like none of the other songs sound like that. Like, I get it, it's the 80s, and it does sound cool, but it feels kind of weird. It feels weird that the movie kind of gets that song more to what I'd imagine it to sound, and it's gonna be weird for me when I go and watch that like 25th anniversary film or whatever, where I'm assuming they're probably gonna keep the instruments to sound like how it is in the movie or whatever, not sound like it's like 80s like synths and stuff. But it's just so funny because that's, you know, like the original version and stuff. You know, with and like the singing's great and stuff. I really like that one. But like the instruments is just the thing that ruins it for me. And I was listening to that earlier, and I was just like, damn, the movie did that better. But anyway, that's a cool scene. I love the Phantom's cave that's like in this sewer, and it's really small too. Like, it is like an actual cave, but it's only like it's one side of the cave. Like, it's enough to fit like a bed and some other things, but it's like a really small dinky place. I love his fire hazard candles. He has like a billion fucking candles, to the point where Christine literally points it out in the next couple of songs or whatever. So then he takes her there, and then the Phantom sings a little bit before the next. It's like in between, like finishing the Phantom of the Opera song and then the next song, which is called Music of the Night. The Phantom sings a little like intro thing or whatever, like welcoming Christine there, and the notes for that song, which is in the same melody as the intro of The Point of No Return. And that's when I started noticing, like, oh, they're using instrumentals of like songs that haven't popped up yet or whatever. It's like, it's this thing, like you keep hearing the same melodies over and over throughout this musical, but it works. It's great. But the notes sound either like they're being sung like too high or too low, and it really bothered me in that one part. Anyway, I do like this version of Music of the Night. I think the softer songs like this one fit Gerard Butler's voice better. Not throughout the entire song, because there's some part, I think any parts with the songs where it's like he has to belt it out and stuff would be really loud. I think that's kind of what he like seems to struggle with. But when it's like the softer songs like this, or I think with The Point of No Return as well, he also, it just fits his voice so much better, and then it sounds fine, then it sounds like good and stuff. I was distracted watching that sequence. It is one of my favorite songs in the musical, by the way, because like Christine, her hair, you know, as you see here, it's like long and curly, but for some reason there's this one like super long curl of her hair that is like on like in front of her shoulders. It's just hanging there, you know, that one singular piece, and the rest of her hair, where it almost looks like it's fake or something, but I don't think it is, or maybe it is, I don't know. And then there's one, the rest of her hair is all behind her shoulders, but like it's so distracting and I'm trying to focus on the song and stuff, but it's always distracting me. I just had to bring that up. And then the Music of the Night, I didn't listen to it on the, I'm actually, well, this video is going to be uploaded, by the way, like while it's literally uploading, I'm going to go back to the original like cast recording and listen to it again. I want to listen to Music of the Night. I need to compare it, because I've listened to that song like a billion times, even like other versions of it and stuff, which I find interesting. Sorry, I keep thinking about that because like there's a Michael Crawford album that I listened to a while ago, where he sings the song, but like he's not singing it in his phantom voice. It's more of like his natural voice, and it sounds like completely different and everything. So like I've listened to multiple versions or like other singers with this song. With this movie, I never noticed during the line as you'll live as you've never lived before. There's like this little kind of piano riff, and I swear I don't remember that with other versions of the song. but I liked it. I thought it was good. That's why I need to go back and listen to it. But yeah, it's still like a good scene. It's you can really see like their hand movements and everything, and it's like good pacing and stuff. This is the thing that makes me sad with like movie adaptations of musicals, where like with newer ones it feels like they're not, like they're embarrassed of it being a musical or whatever. But I do like with this one, you know, they give enough time to the musical numbers and everything feels kind of like nice and slow and such, and I think that's cool. Anyway, there's a part I forgot about where I guess the stagehands, I'm assuming that's what they're called. You see them throughout the movie, by the way. I find them kind of interesting, where a lot of the time they're just like drinking in the background and stuff. I mean, I'm assuming there's not like actual alcohol in there, but I find that kind of funny. Oh, that's the other thing with the movie that's kind of nice. Is it just the opera house feels so alive, and there's like a billion people in this movie, of like all the stagehands and all the other performers that are like performing with Christine and stuff. Like there's maybe at least like 5 to 8 main characters really, but like the main ones are like Raoul, Christine, and the Phantom. So it's not that many in terms of like characters that are like actually important, but there's so many other people in like every single scene, and I think that's so cool. It helps with like the way things are shot and stuff. Like the masquerade scene is full of people, or there's times where characters are walking around and you'll see other people in the background, or like during masquerade they even show like the stage hands and the staff and stuff are having like their own little party where they bust out all the alcohol because they're, you know, they don't have to work at the moment. Anyway, one of them, the guy that the Phantom ends up actually like hanging during a performance or whatever, he ends up telling this like fake story about the Phantom and stuff. And I was paying attention to that, and I remember that some of it is actually supposed to be true. In terms of like, I think for the book of like how the Phantom's usually described, of like looking kind of skeletal and having, I think it's described as like skin like parchment, but I was paying attention more to the part where it says something like he looks like he has no nose. Like he's supposed to look like really scary, and I find that funny, like with the fake story, and then Madame Zuri calls him out and then like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever, and everyone treats the Phantom like he's like the most terrifying thing on earth. But then in this movie specifically, he just, and the fact that it's like, it's a movie too, like you could have gone all out on the makeup and stuff, and I'm just so surprised because like everyone else has like costumes and hair and everything else looks so good, but like the Phantom's face is supposed to be so important and terrifying, and it's like that's the part you mess up on. But I find that interesting that like this fake story description of the Phantom is like more terrifying in this version of the musical than like the actual thing. Anyway, yeah, then we get to see his face because there's this part I forgot about where Christine removes the Phantom's mask, and then he yells at her and stuff, and you get to see his face a little bit. Sorry, my notes got kind of messed up for a second. Damn it, it's not letting me sorry, it's not, sometimes the notes on my phone are annoying where it does not let me scroll at all. I like how when the Phantom's when he's finishing singing about like how Christine is disgusted with his appearance and stuff. No, it's when she hands him back her mask. There's like 5 seconds of one of the ending songs, but it's specifically the music for the line of "It's in your soul that the true distortion lies," and that's what's playing when she gives him, I mean without the words of course, when she gives him the mask and he's singing about how disgusting it looks. And I find that really interesting because that is how she feels by the end of saying like, oh, I used to feel bad for you and now I don't, and like you claim that you're like horrible because of your face, but it's actually because you're a bad person. And I thought that was a cool little detail, especially because he just finished singing about, and I kept thinking about the line of about he sings multiple times comparing himself to like being this ugly thing that's like trapped in hell but yearning for heaven, and that specific kind of line made me think of the radio play for I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, because there's this like really long monologue that Am gives when he finally has like a mental breakdown of like why he hates the humans, and it's like a similar kind of line of being this like creature that's forced to suffer and being jealous of like everyone else. What else? Then we get the song Letters, and I used to not really like that one. Like it is plot important, but I think also because it's not really sung by most of the main character. Like Christine the Phantom are not there for like this one point, but it's really catchy, and I do think it's kind of fun. And then we get the song Prima Donna afterwards, and that one I also kind of had the same feeling. I think not in this viewing, but like my previous one, I realized, oh, I actually do really like this song. Like it's a song that's sung by the opera house owners to Carlotta to like convince her to stay, because she like threatens to quit or whatever multiple times throughout this movie. I like the instruments of it. It sounds like very romantic is the way I could describe it, even though it's not really supposed to be like a romantic song. I mean, they're singing about how lovely she is and whatever, but it's not because they're in love with her. It's because they're ass kissers that are trying to get her to stay. But it is a nice song. It's like kind of short. And then they end up ignoring the Phantom's advice, and they put her in the title role, and then it's like the day of the next opera they have to do or whatever, and the Phantom is there and he's speaking out to the audience and calling Carlotta a toad. I notice he speaks in this kind of like deeper voice when he's sort of like threatening people, and he doesn't talk to Christine or like to anyone else that way. He just talks in like his normal, I don't know if he's like putting on a voice to sound like spooky, but I really liked the way he sounded for that. I almost wish he had that kind of like threatening tone, or like the way he says those lines, his voice is kind of deeper, like the whole musical. I think that fits well, because when I heard that, I'm like, damn, it really is this like spooky Phantom character and stuff. Like it made him sound kind of scary. What else? And then the Phantom commits murder. I was kind of confused about it. Maybe I'm not remembering it right, where the Phantom murders one of the stagehands. I don't remember if it's because the stagehand catches him up there messing with things or not. Because at that point in the opera the characters are putting on, they're like getting Christine ready. They realize that, oh shit, the Phantom's here, we better give Christine the lead role and resume the ballet or whatever. But then the Phantom killed someone, and that's puts like a hold on everything, you know. But I'm like, why do you need to kill this guy if like they're already going back to doing what you asked? Whatever. Anyway, then Christine from that point on is kind of like really freaked out, and she goes to the roof with Raoul. There's also a bit where they're like singing and they're like climbing up these stairs and sort of arguing with each other that I thought was cool. But anyway, they go to the roof, and that's not just one of my favorite songs in the whole musical, but like one of my favorite scenes in this movie, where they go to the roof of the opera house, which I already said kind of looked like the roof from Luigi's Mansion. And the Phantom is there, and he's hiding out, and he's listening to their whole duet together and stuff. And I like the reveal that he's there, and it happens multiple times. You see like his live reaction to things. Because Christine talks about the Phantom a little bit, where she says like he looks so sad all the time or whatever. and then it's revealed that he's there and listening, but like we know, but like the characters, don't know he's there. Anyway, Christine and Raul, they sing this duet called All I Ask of You, and it's like their romantic duet, and I just think it's such a pretty song, honestly. And it's just like a nice vibe too, of like Christine is in this red cloak, they're in the snow, they're singing together. I almost expected them to like dance or something too, but I think it just fits that they're like holding hands, they're kind of moving around a little bit. There's something about it, maybe Christine's cloak, maybe it's Raul's hair and his outfit or something, that made me think of like Beauty and the Beast. I don't know. But anyway, they sound lovely together, and I've kind of had that song in my brain anyway because I got some of the sheet music for Phantom of the Opera. That's one of this. My uncle has one of those like cheat sheet piano books that like has just the chords for the left hand and whatever, and that's one of the songs. It's actually easier than I thought it would be, but I'm still trying to learn that. So it popped up in the musical, and I'm like, ooh, that's the song I'm doing on the piano, and I meant to practice it today and I forgot. Anyway, and that's when I realized, because I'm also reading the subtitles and stuff, how Christine has two different kind of romantic songs with people. I mean, with Raul, with All I Ask of You, it's like a duet, and with the Phantom, it's Music of the Night, but she's not singing, she's just kind of being like sort of hypnotized by him almost. But they're both like love confession songs, but I like how lyrically it's literally about like darkness and light and stuff, and I can't believe it took me this long. It's like very obvious thing, and it took me like this long to realize about that, because like Music of the Night, besides the title, is about like embracing the darkness and stuff, and then All I Ask of You has lyrics about like let me be your light, and about like daylight will dry your tears and stuff, and that's like basically the way you can kind of describe those characters and such. I find that interesting. They're that much of like parallels to each other, and also the fact that the Phantom has a song in this called, because this whole scheme is like darkness and stuff, it's called like Music of the Night, but then I mentioned the song from the sequel, and I remembered that its title is Beneath a Moonless Sky, and without being able to see the moon, it would just be darkness. So it's another romantic song to Christine about darkness. I like the Phantom's reaction once Christine and Raul, they like finish the song and they leave or whatever, and the Phantom grabs this rose. The rose, I think, kind of just represents like his love with Christine. Like she ends up dropping it when the song starts, and he picks it up and he's crying, and then he can hear them singing like from far away or something, and he like starts crumpling. He doesn't even say anything, but he like kind of crumples the rose in anger, and then he has this dramatic bit where he yells to the sky of kind of like cursing them both and whatever. But he does kind of sing softly this one bit while he's like crying, and he is actually like crying. It takes place at night, so it's kind of hard to see, and I realized, I'm like, why is his, because the camera's like right up in Gerard Butler's face, and I'm like, why is his nose so wet? And I'm like, oh, he's like crying, okay. But he sings about how he gave Christine his music and she denied and betrayed it, which on one hand I felt bad for him, like he did give her these lessons for free and stuff, but at the same time it's like, that's cool of you and stuff, and you've been helping her with her career, and it would probably not have as advanced as much without you, but like she does not owe you a relationship for that, And then we have the masquerade scene, which is also really cool. I just find it kind of funny. I know the characters mentioned, like, oh, it's been 3 years. I mean, not 3 years. No, 3 months since, like, the Phantoms appeared or whatever. We can finally, like, breathe for a little bit. And so they probably assume he's not a threat anymore or whatever. Silly them. But the fact that they have a party that involves wearing masks when they know that the guy that's going around causing mischief wears masks and, could easily, like, wouldn't even need to disguise himself or anything, and he could show up. It's stuff. I just find that so funny. But the masks are cool. Like, some of them are very elegant. Some of them are kind of simple. I like the ones, there's a couple of people are wearing where it's like half white, half black. think that's also kind of reminding me of a Doctor Who villain, though. Anyway, they have some cool outfits. The whole scene is just really cool even before the Phantom shows up. I just wish the Phantom had a cool entrance. And since I've seen some pictures from the musical, I feel kind of disappointed because the Phantom has this outfit that's like this red outfit. It's like the Don Juan outfit or something. And he has this black cape and he has this skull mask and stuff. And I mean, in this movie, like if you'd only watched the movie, you'd think like, okay, that's pretty cool. It's like mask, it's like a little skeletal, but like wait until you see the fucking one from the musical. Wait, I have to look it up for a second. One moment, please. Okay, I found it. So it's this outfit that is way more fucking extra, where the Phantom has like this hat and these really poofy sleeves, and the skull mask is so cool where it like goes over his like the one Gerard Butler wears in the movie is like it was just on screen for like, it covers like all of his face except for his mouth, and it's like slightly skeletal. It has like some cracks on it a little bit. It's like a little three-dimensional, but like the one in the musical is so freaking cool because it's like a full skull and stuff. Almost kind of looks like a Halloween mask or something, where you wouldn't be able to like recognize him underneath or anyway. And it has like these teeth that are open like on where the mouth would be and stuff. It's just so extra. It's perfect. It like makes me wonder of like what his entrance is. Like it deserves a cool entrance because he doesn't really have like a cool entrance here for being such a dramatic character. Like the light dims a little and then he's just there. He's like at the top of the stairs and people notice him, but he's like there. He doesn't like make a noise or do a cool thing or whatever. He's just there and then everyone's like staring at him or something. And it's like, dude, you're at a fucking masquerade ball. You're the Phantom of the Opera. You can have like a little more presentation there, buddy. But yeah, it was kind of a downer with the outfit. And then I thought he was gonna take Christine. I misremembered it. It happened like a different scene at the end of the movie where he ends up actually like taking Christine back to the lair. But he takes her engagement ring, or he like cuts it off or something, and he leaves. And he gives them his opera that he wrote, and that's pretty much it. But it's just funny to me because like everyone's just standing there. Like the guy you want is right there. You can like tackle him or something. Like he is carrying a sword and stuff. And then Rule actually leaves Christine behind while the Phantom's there to get a sword, and he follows him in, and then has to be escorted out by Madame Giry and stuff before he like gets attacked too badly. But yeah, it's like the dude is right there. Like he has his exit planned already, but everyone just lets him approach Christine, and he talks to her a little bit, and then he gets to just leave, you know? It's like the one time they had the advantage on him. Anyway, then we get the like Phantom backstory stuff, which I had notes about, but I already mentioned it. I'm just surprised he decides to stay in the opera house. Like, I get it's originally like Madame Giry hit him there because he like kills the owner of the circus thing or something, and everyone's like, oh shoot, there's like a murderer around, we have to go catch him. So he would have been caught and probably like killed or something if they caught him. So I get they had to like hide in the sewer, like hide in the opera house or something. But I'm just surprised he decided to like stay there. Like I know he's worried about his face and probably doesn't want to or really know how to like interact with people or something, but interesting. Anyway, and then we get the song Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again. I remember this was another one when I was younger. I didn't like it. I don't know if it was because of the setting of it takes place in this graveyard or just the way it sounds. It's like a very slow, like Christine solo song. I think because it just kind of sounds a bit depressing compared to like everything else, which is supposed to be the point. It's a song. She's walking through a graveyard to go to her father's grave, and she's singing about how she wishes he was like there with her and she misses him and stuff. I feel like I appreciate it more now that I'm like older. I feel like I kind of get it more. I don't really like hate it. I think it's just grown on me. I do feel like it's a bit long though, but I love the whole vibe where Christine is in this like black outfit, because she mostly wears like pastel colors and stuff throughout the whole movie, and then starts to wear darker colors as it gets like closer to the end and such. And she has these roses, and it's like this spooky, foggy graveyard in the snow, and her song and the way she sings sounds so like haunting. It just, the vibes fit, that's for sure. But it's like a cool little song. And then Raoul shows up and has a sword fight with the Phantom that I completely forgot about, even though it is pretty cool. It's like shot kind of well, where he actually ends up winning that fight, and he has the opportunity to kill the Phantom and Christine. It's funny because like Christine is just like, no, Raoul, not like this or whatever. So like the Phantom gets spared, and you think he'd be happy about that, but then he immediately says as soon as they leave, like, damn, I'm gonna declare war on you both. And it's like, dude, she just saved your life. What do you have against her? Anyway, then we get one of my favorite songs. It's one I kind of have stuck in my head for a while. Is called The Point of No Return, and it's like technically the last song. It's it's like it's sung by Christine and the Phantom, but then it like technically continues until it turns into like an argument between Raoul, Christine, and the Phantom. It feels like it should be marked as like two songs, but it's just because it's like two different scenes, but it's like treated as one long song, and like the soundtrack and stuff. And I felt kind of bad because like right as I was starting that song, because I'd been left home alone today, it's when my parents came back and I was eating my lunch, and I wanted to and thankfully it was not like this Rocky Horror where it was, I mean, this is the most like sexual part of the movie, but it's not like with Rocky Horror where it's like I didn't want what was going to be shown on screen there, where it's awkward. I went to mine that it's just like, you know, it's like it's the big last number, and it's like once that song starts, like I mentioned, it just kind of continues all the way towards like the end and stuff. So I don't really have that many I have like one paragraph, and that's it in terms of my notes, because then I had to watch it without having access to my phone to write. But yeah, I had to have a pause for a bit, so I didn't really get to experience it one go. Anyway, this is another thing where like the costume changes are sort of different. I don't know how I feel about it, where the performance is very different. It made me surprised when I got to see a little bit of the musical, where I'm like, wait, why is he not in like this costume or whatever from the movie? Okay, so the context is that the characters are performing the opera that the Phantom had wrote, which is called Don Juan Triumphant. So, Raoul wants to set up the opera as like a trap, because he knows that the Phantom's going to show up, so he has it so like the police are there and they're armed and everyone's like ready to catch the Phantom or whatever. I guess they all and Christine's supposed to be like his bait, so they have her in like the lead role this time. They don't even bother with anything, you know, with Carlotta or whatever. She's kind of just not really like plot relevant anymore from this point. Anyway, so they have Christine on stage, and she's scared, and she knows that like if the Phantom will come and get her, he will take her away, and she'll never see Raoul again or anyone else. She'll be like stuck in that basement forever, the sewer. But I guess they forgot that like the Phantom wrote the musical, the opera and stuff, so he ends up taking the role that someone else was supposed to play. Like I think he just kills the guy, and then he ends up on stage, and you know the audience thinks it's part of the show or whatever. So I don't even know if they realize that it is the Phantom or not, because they don't try to catch him on anything. They're just kind of forced to watch him sing this song with Christine. It's kind of funny because like Raoul's there and he's watching, and I think he knows, and he has like tears in his eyes and everything. Anyway, so it's supposed to be this like very like sexually tension charged song, where here it's presented almost kind of like a tango, where you see like the background dancers getting kind of like handsy with each other and stuff. And it's apparently very different from what I've seen with the musical, where in this the Phantom wears this like, it's kind of a simple outfit. It's like this black mask, and this cape and this red outfit. And then I don't really like Christine's outfit, actually, where she has this big red flower. I feel like it looks kind of weird. Her top's kind of cute, but then she has this kind of long white skirt. It's just kind of whatever. I don't really care for it. I mean, it's probably supposed to fit with the character she's playing, but she has so many elaborate dresses throughout the movie that just kind of like, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, the Phantom is like dressed up to be, you know, the character that he's supposed to be playing and stuff. So it's kind of cool because then you get to kind of see like his facial expressions and stuff. He's very like handsy with Christine and stuff. And I like that they kind of actually circle each other around this like fake fire and everything. It's like a lot of tension. It's really cool. And then the music, I actually think I do like it better than how it is in the like stage musical, where from what I've seen, for some reason there's like a bench or something that they have to sit on, so it doesn't have any of the like cool background stuff. And for some reason the Phantom has a different outfit. I don't know if it's like different context for like what's happening with the musical, where instead of having that cool outfit or like having an outfit that matches with what's going on with the plot, the Phantom is completely in this black robe with like his face covered and everything. Maybe it's so that like Christine doesn't recognize him, but he still sings the song with her, and I've seen some footage of it, which is kind of interesting actually, where like the sexual tension like is still there and they're still like touching each other. There's this part I found was interesting where Christine kind of grabs the Phantom's hands and his hands start like shaking because it's probably just like, oh my gosh, she's like touching me or whatever. So I don't know, it's definitely like less sexy in the musical, but I think it's interesting that he's just in this black robe, but they're having like their big duet song together and stuff. And also from what I've seen, like who kind of leads in the song is also interesting. Where in the movie it's the Phantom kind of leading Christine along with their movements and stuff, and I think from what I remember right with clips I've seen from the musical, it's actually kind of just Christine, or I don't know if it was like the specific clip that I watched where she's kind of leading around his hands and stuff. I just find that change of perspective interesting. So I'll have to see when I watch the musical later of like what is the context of why he's in a different outfit and stuff, where it just feels almost kind of silly where or like kind of non-threatening or anything, where he's in like this, where he's almost kind of dressed like a ghost of like this black robe and it covers his face. You cannot see anything of him except his hands. Anyway, that's pretty much all my notes. And then from there, you know, they do that song. Like I said, that song is one of my favorites. I definitely prefer the movie version better. That's what I'm used to, so that's why when I saw the costumes for the musical, I'm like, huh? What? Anyway, so then they do that, and then Raoul tries to save Christine, and they're kind of having like a sing argument between like them and the Phantom, where Raoul ends up getting almost hanged and the Phantom's going to kill him, and he starts singing about like Christine could buy his freedom if she gives him her love, like to agree to stay with him forever and stuff. And the point of no return is really supposed to be meaning this moment rather than the sexual tension dance sequence we had with like the Phantom and Christine, where it's like she has to make this is the point of no return. She has to make the choice between if she's going to live with the Phantom forever and save Raoul's life, or if she's going to let him die. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Instead, she takes a third option, which I always like, where she ends up admitting that she like feels bad for the Phantom or whatever, and she kisses him, and it shocks him so much because he's never had this kind of affection before, where he actually ends up letting her go. And she does admit that she's not afraid of his face anymore because she's seen it like 2 times already. First was kind of at just the beginning, and then there's this dramatic bit when she's singing the beginning of like The Point of No Return with the Phantom, where she takes off his mask and the audience gets like a full-on view of what he's supposed to look like and stuff, like the in-universe audience where they're all freaking out or whatever, and then us, where he's revealed to be bald and having, I mean, not bald, no, I think probably a little balding though, blonde, I meant to say blonde, he's revealed to be blonde, and his face looks like it's like a bad sunscreen. We'll have to see how it goes with like the musical versions for me though, of is his makeup, I hope it looks terrifying. I mean, I don't need it to look like, I mean, I've never seen the original movie with Chanley, I think the guy's name is, where they do have it, I think supposedly book accurate, where he like just does not have like a nose or anything, where he looks more like skeletal. I still got to watch that as well, even though it's going to be weird for me because I'm so used to like the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical in terms of the story. I mean, I've watched the other musical too, so like but the ALW one's the one that I like associate, like that's the Phantom of the Opera and stuff. But like I'm so used to the story in the context of it being a musical. I feel like if I had to watch it as a movie and there's no musical numbers, I would not be feeling it. But yeah, Christine finally shows him some affection and kisses him, and it's like this big dramatic romantic moment or whatever, and then she's allowed to leave and people are chasing the Phantom down, but then she comes back and she gives him this engagement ring that she got from Raoul, and then he ends up escaping and stuff. He has like this secret exit because of course he does, and then you get the flashbacks, or not, the final like flash forward scene where Raoul puts the music box on Christine's grave, where it's revealed that she died in like her 60s or something. They don't say how she dies, it just says like beloved wife and mother, so at least it's shown like, okay, she had a happy life with Raoul and stuff. They did get to be together and whatever, but then the last bit of the movie is that Raoul sees that there's a rose with a little black like bow on it or something that's left at Christine's grave, which is supposed to show like, hey, the Phantom didn't get caught by the mob or whatever, he's still alive, which then continues into the sequel musical that I will not probably be watching. I'll probably check out the soundtrack because I'm curious enough, but I don't know if I want to watch the movie. I kind of already, or not the movie, the musical, it's not a movie. I kind of know a bit of the plot of like Meg is the villain and Christine dies for like realsies and stuff. That's the other thing, because they ever die in this movie, but like way in the future, and then in the sequel musical she like actually dies, but it's like when she's an adult, not like an old person. And so I don't know how it is with the musical, like the stage musical, if they're gonna have her die too. But anyway, if you consider like the sequel canon, that means like the ending of this doesn't really matter, or at least for the movie anyway. I just always thought that was weird of like it, I mean, I don't know if it's like how it's supposed to be in the musical too, the stage, but if it isn't, if it's just this version of the movie, it's kind of weird to me of like they just have her like, she dies and stuff. Like I don't really see the point, like I said, of having those like flash forwards. They're like cool, I guess. I get to see that some of the characters live to old age, but I don't know, I feel like it almost kind of distracts me from the story. Like it could have started with like the chandelier going up and stuff, but it is a cool moment to have. Anyway, that's all my notes and stuff that I have for this movie. I didn't mean for this to be like an hour and 20 minutes long, but I've seen this like a lot. I have like a lot of thoughts, but I'm glad that my opinion changes, mostly good, mostly bad. I feel like it's good in that there's like at least 3 songs that I actually sort of like now, so that's nice. And I enjoy the movie for like its settings and its costume and stuff, and this is like the one role I know the actress for Christine for, and I want to see if she's in like anything else because her voice is amazing. I need more of it. But yeah, the movie's cool. It's just weird because like ever since I had listened to like the original cast of like how is it supposed to sound with like Broadway singers and stuff, I'm just like, damn, wish they had that for this. But anyway, like I said, most of the singers, like, they do well and stuff. It's just Gerard Butler as the Phantom is like the one big thing I have like against the movie. He's not like completely terrible, let me say that. It's just everyone else just sounds so much better, and he's supposed to be playing this like musical genius character. I think that's part of the reason it bothers me so much, if I'm honest, of like, you're supposed to be the music guy, but like you can't really sing. Yeah, but everyone else I'm good with, you know, in their roles and stuff, and they all do a good job. And there are, of course, as I mentioned, like some versions of the songs I do prefer with this movie, and I do prefer how this like Christine sound and stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna check out the 25th anniversary film thing. If it ends up being amazing, and if I desperately have thoughts with it I need to like share with the world, maybe I'll make a video on that too. That I don't mean for that to sound excessive, like I'm doing the movie and I'm doing the musical, but like, you know, they are kind of, it's the same storyline, but they are kind of, as I mentioned, like the costumes and some of the other things treated as like different things. And it'll be cool to see that because, you know, since it's like a film version of it, like a pro shot, you know, they'll actually have the cameras like, you know, zooming in on people's faces. I can actually see shit, so that'll be cool. It'll be like my first time actually getting to like be able to see with the stage version, because oh man, the recording I saw with the I don't even remember where on YouTube I found it, of like the one of the recordings of the 80s with Michael Crawford and Sarah Brightman. Like I could hear them, they sung great and stuff, but like I could not see for shit. I guess that's my punishment, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, movie's alright. I like it. Like, if this was the only version of the Phantom of the Opera you knew, like how that was my reality for like 15 years or whatever, you know, it's enjoyable. It's still got the good, all the music and stuff, good music. The setting is really cool. Like for being a musical, I mean a movie adaptation of a movie, no, that was said wrong. A movie adaptation of a stage musical. It's one of the only ones I like. There's like very few that I like really like actually. Like Mamma Mia I mentioned, but mostly because it takes place in Greece, and I have an emotional attachment to Meryl Streep as Donna, and then Chicago. I fucking love Chicago. I've never gotten to see it on like stage or anything, but it's one of those I've always wanted to. But that one's great. I also like Evita. I have seen that on stage and it was better. But I like the movie. It's fun. And then there's this one, and that's pretty much it for me. In terms of musical movie adaptations, just those like 5 really, but really only the 2 of those I feel like are kind of superior, I guess. Mostly Mamma Mia. But yeah, this one's good. I still love the design, that opera house, the costumes, everything is just so like perfectly like gothic, and so it almost feels almost like cozy to me, I think, because of how familiar it is. This is almost like a comfort movie to me. I don't really know what that says about me, but yeah, I don't know, but the gothic vibes are cool. As I'm saying, it fit. That's why I'm like, this is the movie I watch every year in October. So that's my yearly viewing for this year. I won't make a video on this specific movie again, though. That would be kind of funny, of like every year if my opinion changes on this movie, but no, it won't. I love this thing. I have a soft spot for it. But yeah, that's about it. We'll see. We'll see if anything comes out of that like stage musical version I'm gonna go watch, where it was like the 25th anniversary edition or whatever, that I'm so glad they filmed. I don't know what Halloween kind of movies I'm gonna do next. I have like a billion movies I added to my Peacock list. There's like horror movies on there now. I get to watch Friday the 13th for the first time, so I might just record a bunch of those and post them throughout October, or like even every day, but I'll keep them at like night, kind of like this one. Just it'll be like a nighttime thing of like, hey, here's my thoughts on a spooky movie or whatever. All right, I've been yapping enough. Bye bye.